And good morning. Welcome to Coffee Breaks with Steve on Saturday, August 14th, 2021. If you are tuning in live or getting ready to tune in live, uh, welcome. Welcome to Coffee Breaks, and I'm glad you're here. And make sure that as you see in the scrolling banner there, make sure that as you get tuned in here and get involved, that you say hello, or as Carissa does, say hello and join in the conversation today. We got some fun things to talk about, fun things to go over. Hi, Jerry Thompson. And yeah, it is August 14th. That's amazing how this year just keeps plugging along. It seems like just a week ago I was saying it was August 7th. So here we are once again. By the way, if you are tuning in later on and watching this in a recording of this program, or as I like to call it, syndicated reruns, you can still make comments in the chat, be a part of the conversation. We'd love to hear from you, love to know that you are tuning in. So do make sure that you participate in what's happening. Hello, Shalane. Good to see you. And let's see what is going on this week. We have today, August 14th, is National Creamsicle Day. I used to love creamsicles as a kid. Do you remember? I think you can still get those in the stores. I just haven't done it in a long time. It's kind of orange and vanilla blended, right? And those were so refreshing and just sort of a great flavor combination. Hot summer days. And I know it's hot summer in a lot of the areas of the country right now. So maybe this is a great day to take advantage of a national day and get some creamsicles. Today is also National Garage Sale Day. It's actually on the second Saturday of August every year. So obviously, Garage Sale Day is going to fall on a weekend. So it makes sense that it would always be on Saturday. And hi, Kathy Garlic. Kathy Garlic, but I'll give you the lowdown on all of this in a few minutes. Kathy Garlic's right upstairs. I'm actually in Utah this weekend, and Carol and I both visiting family in Utah. So this broadcast is coming to you from West Point, Utah, at Rod and Kathy Garlic's home, my sister and brother-in-law. So thank you to Rod and Kathy for opening up their home, for letting us be here. But yeah, so National Garage Sale Day. How many of you like to go to garage sales? How many of you are garage sale regulars? You look for the garage sales every weekend. You're out there looking for good deals. I always love to watch shows like what's an Antique Roadshow, where people come in with things that they picked up. They bought a box full of junk at a garage sale, or they saw a particular picture that they just really liked at a garage sale, and take it into Antique Roadshow and find out that it actually has some value. I mean, some real value to it. Hi, Jay Zetterval. Good to see you, my friend. So yeah, so how many of you like to go to garage sales? How many of you have plans maybe this weekend for a garage sale? You either like to go to them, or you like to actually conduct them in your driveway, in your garage, in your front yard. We call them garage sales. They're not always in the garage, right? Sometimes it's in the yard. Sometimes it's in the driveway. But yeah, it's those outdoors. Somebody at their house. I've even seen, and I kind of think this is cool. You'll see this where they will do neighborhood garage sales, where the neighbors will all plan it together along a stretch on a street or in a cul-de-sac. And you basically have almost like a flea market, a bazaar set up where people are coming through and they're going house to house, checking out the different things that are available at the garage sales. So that's today, if you want to take advantage of that. On Monday, August 16th, is National Roller Coaster Day. I am actually a roller coaster fan. Now, I will admit I can't do roller coasters as much as I could when I was younger. You get older and the inner ear changes, and trying to go on roller coasters repetitively just isn't, I don't have the stamina for it anymore. But I do like roller coasters, which is odd because I don't like heights. So if we go to the fair, or we go to a theme park, I cannot get on rides like the Ferris wheel, where the time that you're spending at a height is extended and it's slow, and you're kind of stuck up there at that height. I can do roller coasters. Now, if a roller coaster has a really big climb, a slow climb at the beginning, I have to kind of breathe my way through that, because that gets to my fear of heights. Once the roller coaster's going, doesn't matter how high it goes. I can take that. I enjoy roller coasters. So 16th is National Roller Coaster Day. If you're a roller coaster fan, let us know up here. Let's see. What else? Yeah, 16th. Okay. So August 16th, which once again is Monday, is also Tell a Joke Day. So you got to, that's the day that you can pull out, guys, that's the day you can pull out the dad jokes. In fact, let's see, I think I've got a couple of jokes here I can share with you just to tee things up. Here's some good dad. I've got a couple of dad jokes. I'll tell a couple because it's not the 16th. I got to save some of these until it's the official day. Yeah, my wife and I should start doing lunges to stay in shape. That would be a big step forward. Oh, that's good. Um, Singing in the shower is fun until you get soap in your mouth. Then it's just a soap opera. Okay, we're going to leave it there. I could keep going, and I know how much all of you would appreciate it if I just continued to read off a list of dad jokes, but we'll stop there. Yeah, I see Shalann's comment. Carissa, alert Jason. His time is coming. My son-in-law, Jason, loves dad jokes. Now, my son, Christopher, loves memes that have jokes attached to them. So all it says is National Tell a Joke Day. It doesn't say how you tell it, doesn't say what the source needs to be. So find your source. Tell some jokes this week on the 16th, particularly. 17th, it's interesting. Today is National Garage Sale Day, and the 17th is National Thrift Shop Day. So my first thought was, so you get a bunch of stuff at the garage sale, you take it home, and your spouse says, why'd you spend money on all of this stuff? Get rid of it. We don't have room for this. So a few days later, you end up going to your local Goodwill or Salvation Army thrift store and dropping off a bunch of stuff that you got at the garage sale. Now, I also know that's another source sometimes for finding some great things. I have found a variety of things, including clothing. Lots of times at the thrift shops, you find where people maybe bought something, it didn't fit, or they wore it once. A guy buys a suit to wear to a wedding, and he typically doesn't wear suits, and so it's sitting in the closet, and finally says, let's get rid of this. And it goes to the garage sale, or excuse me, to the thrift shop. And so now lots of times you can find hardly worn or sometimes never worn clothing in the thrift shops, along with other things, home decor, furniture, art, kitchen utensils, a variety of stuff in the thrift shop. So I'm curious again, are you a thrift shop person? Do you shop in the thrift shops? Lots of times the thrift shops as well. I almost couldn't say that. Hang on. Thrift shop, thrift shop, thrift shop. That's not an easy one. The tongue gets caught up. The thrift shops very often are owned by or organized by or connected with nonprofit organizations. So lots of times when you are shopping in a thrift shop, you're also supporting a local nonprofit. And it's always good to know kind of maybe who that is. Now, we know with Goodwill Industries, we know Salvation Army, but there are others lots of times that may be more privately on small scale, not national. All right, we said that 16th was National Tell a Joke Day. The 18th is Bad Poetry Day. Bad Poetry Day. Do you have, in your experience, either as a reader or a writer, any bad poems? Well, the 18th would be the day to express yourself. Bad poems, you think, what's bad poetry? The definitions, they actually do contests. You will see these things. You've probably seen them before, where magazines or some site will do a contest to see who can submit the worst bad poem. And you see things, the very simple ones like, roses are red, violets are blue. This is Bad Poetry Day, so nothing has to rhyme. That simple. I have a favorite. It's not really bad poetry, but it's it's kind of absurd poetry. Some people would say it's bad poetry, but it was one I learned as a child. I think Kathy, my sister, and some of my family may remember this one. It was in a book that we had of short stories and poems and a variety of things. It's a famous poem. I will have to look up the author. Pardon me that I don't have the author in front of me right now, but it is from a collection of absurd poetry. And it really is, it's not really bad poetry. In my mind, it's among the best because of its creativity. It's called Ella Telephony. Kathy, you remember that one? It goes like this. Once there was an elephant who tried to use the telephone. No, I mean an elephant who tried to use the telephone. Dear me, I am not certain quite that even now I've got it right. However it was, he got his trunk entangled in the telephone. The more he tried to set it free, the louder buzzed the telephone. I fear I'd better drop this song of Elephop and Telephone. Isn't that great? That's bad poetry on one hand. On the other hand, I think it's fantastic. I saw Rick Venturi get on here. Hello, Rick. Good to see you. If you have popped into the conversation here and I have not acknowledged you yet, I may not have seen your name come up. Please make sure you say hello. And the last thing that's on my list of special days this week is next Thursday, the 19th. Thursday's the 19th, yeah, is National Potato Day. How many of you are potato fans? How do you like, what is your favorite way to prepare and eat potatoes? Do you have a special recipe? Next Thursday is your day to celebrate the potatoes in your life. So make sure you do that. And hi, Rod, and thank you. Welcome to Utah. Rod says, thank you. We are thrilled to be in Utah. Kathy Garlick, Laura Elizabeth Richards for the Ella Telephony poem, right? Thank you. And, and I love some of the comments that are popping up here. This is great. All right, listen, those are the special days. If you have a special day this week, that a birthday, an anniversary, some other special day that you would like to make sure that we acknowledge on Coffee Breaks with Steve, drop it in the chat here so we can see it and celebrate with you. Hi, Kim Baker. Kim Baker's here. Good meowing and happy Catter Day. Oh, that's all right. I understand. I understand. I appreciate you, Kim. You tune in when you can. We love to have you here, whether you're here, especially appreciate it when you can be here live and chat with us. But anytime you can join, please do. We're going to talk about motivation and perseverance. And you're going, oh, great. You know, motivational speech. No, to me, this is more about thinking about just things in life that we deal with where we're trying to set goals, or goals have been set for us and we have to motivate ourselves to fulfill certain things. And those can be daily, right? Do you have like, just, there are some days that you're just going, okay, I'm just not feeling it today. And you got to motivate yourself to get through a day. Sometimes it's a project. Sometimes it's a situation in life that may be long lasting. It could be a job situation. It could be a school situation. I know several of you on here right now are in the midst of doing schooling. And there are times that for a particular class, a particular semester, a particular degree that you're going through, things you're going through and the things you're going for. But that's where motivation kicks in. And I just think it's really interesting. This kind of came up because we were talking recently. I think, most of you know that over the last year and a half after COVID started, I went on a journey to lose some weight and try to get in shape. Carol had already been doing this and had been working on it for a little while. And I got on the same plan that she was on. And as is often the case when you're talking about diet and changing eating habits and the impact and the things that you notice, men very often tend to lose weight more quickly and more consistently than women do for any number of reasons having to do with physical makeup, metabolism, body structure, and all kinds of things. Carol had already been doing this for a while. We kind of started at the same place. She was already steps ahead of me, but it didn't take me long to kind of catch up and pass where she was at. And on the one hand, the progress that I was making was motivating for me. The flip side of that for Carol was the idea that comparatively, it could have made it more challenging for her to remain motivated. And she really stuck with it. I mean, we both ended up really hitting our target very close to the same time, and have done a very good job of continuing to maintain at that level. And we're thinking about recently, what were the various things, and what are the things with something like that where you're working to change habits or you're working to change lifestyles? How do you motivate yourself? What are the kind of the psychological and the scientific bases for motivation? And how does motivation differ from, but tie into perseverance? What are kind of the definitions of those two things? And how do they work together? And how do they fit into the idea that you're motivating and trying to stick with something for a longer period of time? So I was just looking at, I think we all know what motivation is. I'd love to see your definitions of what is motivation, not examples necessarily. I want you to share those too, but how would you define motivation? What is that in terms of its description, its purpose? And the same thing for perseverance. In your mind, when you hear that word, what are some synonyms or what are some definitions? We'll talk about those a little bit, but I really want to talk about it in practical terms. I was reading some articles, and any of you who have studied psychology, maybe you studied in education space and other places where motivation and the types of motivation are taught, there are basically considered to be, there are subcategories of these, but 4 types of motivation. And I think it's relevant to at least mention those because it ties into how we are affected when we are trying to motivate and remain motivated. The first type is extrinsic motivation, and it's when there are external influences that are impelling you or moving you forward to in certain ways. So, and by the way, these motivators, these types of motivation can overlap, right? There can be more than one going on, but extrinsic motivation is when you're being motivated by others. You think about someone who is running a foot race and they're getting tired toward the end, and all of a sudden they have a group of their friends holding up signs and cheering them on. Have you ever been in a situation like that and you kind of feel re-energized? It motivates you. It does it psychologically and it can do it physically as well. But there is a sense of the external factors that are again impelling you, moving you forward. In a job situation, it could be the promise of a promotion or a raise or a bonus if you are able to fulfill certain obligations, certain tasks at work. That's an extrinsic motivation. I think we all get that. Intrinsic motivation are the internal motivators, the things that we are saying to ourselves subconsciously or out loud even sometimes. But it's the things that are tied in with our own pleasure systems. They are things that are tied in with our own values that cause us to be motivated to want to do something. In my case, for instance, there were several factors that probably tied in with all of the four areas when I decided to lose some weight. Part of it was I had been diagnosed with some very early stage coronary artery disease a few months before. So there was an external and extrinsic motivation based on the fact I had a report from my doctor that said, you got this, it's nothing serious, but you're going to want to monitor it. You would put me on some medication. And yeah, losing weight would be a good thing. Okay. There was some extrinsic motivation. The intrinsic was that I had certain goals in my own mind that I wanted to achieve, and I wanted to feel good, and I was feeling good in the process, and that was a motivator. Introjected motivation is an internalized motivation similar to intrinsic, but it's negative. It's a negative form of motivation resulting from non-action, such as the job being done poorly or not at all, and the person feeling guilty. This form of motivation is similar to negative reinforcement, but the stimulus for the person's motivation is internal rather than external. So, in other words, negative reinforcement is when other people are making you feel bad. Introjected motivation is when you're doing it to yourself. You're guilt tripping yourself about something, and it's causing you to want to. You're motivated to do something, and it could be that you're motivated to fix what you think is wrong, or it could motivate you to move into a place of withdrawal and avoidance. Right? Motivation isn't always moving towards something. Sometimes you're motivated to move away from something. We're going to actually talk about that too. And then the last one is identified motivation. Identified motivation is the understanding or feeling the need to perform or accomplish some task, but not yet acting on the need. So, for instance, when I was thinking about, knew that I wanted to begin changing dietary habits and how I was eating and my exercise habits, there was first and continually through the process a thinking through of what I wanted to do, the knowledge that, okay, I need to get started. When am I going to start this? How do I want to do this? And even along the way, there would be kind of for the next step, thinking ahead and sort of putting myself in a place where I was pre-motivating, if you will. So I think the four types of motivation that are listed there, it's good to understand them. And by the way, if you have studied this, you have some other perspectives on the four types of motivation or other types of motivation that you think are relevant, yeah, drop those in the chat. We learn from each other, right? We have the conversation here. But I think about motivation, and I think about the fact, once again, that it comes in different forms. It comes in the momentary, it can come in the daily, it can come in the short term, it comes in the long term. It comes in situations of life that we're planning for, and it comes in situations of life that are totally unexpected. And I've shared a little bit about mine, but I want to know yours. I want to know some of the examples of situations currently or in your life where you are being motivated right now. You have been motivated. Do you look for that extrinsic motivation? Is Coffee Breaks with Steve a place where you can share something you're working on and we can cheer you on? If that's the case, feel free to share that too. That's fine. In fact, I welcome that. But I think about motivation, the other side to that we were already referring to a little bit is perseverance. Perseverance is not that being jazzed to do something, it's that persistence to stick with something when sometimes it's becoming tiring, it's becoming frustrating, it's becoming disappointing. And it's how do you stick with, again, I think of the marathon or running a foot race, and you start off, you're jazzed when you're at the starting line. If you ever run a 5K or a 10K or a half or full marathon of any kind, is that the beginning, you kind of build up, the adrenaline's going and stuff, you get started, the gun goes off or the horn sounds or whatever it might be, and there's this whole group and there are balloons and there are arches and you're running and it's all cool and maybe there's music, and along the way, you kind of start to feel those muscles tightening up and the breathing is becoming harder and you're getting tired. And particularly if it's a long runner, if you don't feel like you're in great shape for it, there is a point at which you hit what they call the wall. And there is a point where there is a part of you that is saying very reasonably, this would be a great time to stop. You're tired. You're hurting a little bit. Maybe your feet are starting to hurt a little bit. Just stop. And the perseverance, the persistence is that saying, I'm going to stick with it when it's not easy to stick with it, right? Motivation is all the reasons why something makes sense to go after. And perseverance or persistence is that sticking to it. And there's a place in the Bible that I always go back to that talks about that. And it's in the book of James. I'm not going to quote it verbatim here, but it talks about facing trials, and that when we are tested in our faith, when we're tested in life, the testing itself leads to perseverance. And you think about even when Boeing tests an airplane, one of the things that they do is they stress test pulling up on the wings and putting pressure on it. It's a test to check. They check the pounds per square inch. They test at what point the metal fatigue starts to set in, et cetera. And you have to do that. You can't just do a quick push up on the wings. It's applying continued pressure over time, right? A persistence, a perseverance. Think about the process in nature of coal being transferred or transformed into a diamond. It doesn't happen immediately, right? It's a combination of pressure and heat and time. And so perseverance, sticking with something over time, is a part of what motivation leads us to. And so I want to know about some of your experiences with that too. When have you had to stick with something when the pressure was on, when it was heating up, right? When you knew you were going to have to stick with something over time to accomplish what needed to be accomplished. Even sometimes it's not even towards some positive goal. It's to get through a rough patch. People who've dealt with medical issues, physical issues, people right now we hear about, and this may apply to some of you or your family or your friends who have been dealing with COVID-19 and have become the long haulers. They're dealing with these long-term after effects. And sometimes, there's that old term, looking for the light at the end of the tunnel. All we're seeing is the tunnel. And you don't have that light there yet. And yet, you got to stick with the journey. You got to stick with the path. So again, I'm not here to try to give you a bunch of motivation or perseverance speeches. I just think it's a relevant topic. Did I see Jared on there, by the way, and not say hi yet? I just think it's a relevant topic for everything that we deal with in life. And I think it's worthwhile to consider how we go about life. And it is about life together too, because motivation and perseverance very often, and hopefully this is more common than it's not common, it's not simply about what we're doing on our own. We should have support systems around us. We should have champions. We should have those people who spur us on, the iron sharpening iron mode. We should be the people. You saw this in the Olympics. If you watch the Olympics, talk about motivation, talk about perseverance, and talk about the idea that it's not always just that intrinsic, that internal. It has to be internal. There has to be a part where you say, I want it, right? If it's simply extrinsic, it's very hard to stay motivated. It's very hard to persevere. But how do we utilize even the people around us? People, surround yourself with those who will become your champions, who will be your friends, your family, your team, your village, your cohorts, whatever you want to call them. These are the people who are going to, you feel like you can trust enough to share the things that you're trying to motivate yourself to do. And sometimes they are also the ones who call you to task. They may hold you accountable. That's good too. And that we need all kinds of motivation. We need all kinds of ways to persevere. And I think it's relevant right now because we've been going through beyond everything else that happens in life. Think about this last year and a half or so. And what we have had to motivate ourselves to do in the face of circumstances that we weren't expecting, that interfered with, at best, distracted from and interfered with some of the basic things in life that we were just accustomed to doing. And the perseverance that has had to go with that. I can recall at work when we were first told that our office was shutting down in March of 2020. And we didn't know what was ahead of us really, other than we probably plan on working from home for 2 or 3 weeks. There was never a return to the office. And everything, things changed along the path there in terms of what that continued to look like. And persevering isn't always just about a straight and narrow path. Sometimes it can be about the zigzags and the forks in the road that come too. I'm using a lot of metaphors here, but I think you get what I'm talking about. I'm not having to teach at you about motivation and perseverance. I think it's just great to converse about it. So I do appreciate that you're putting the comments in the chat. Please continue to do so. Even as we wrap up today, I just want to encourage you, continue to be part of the conversation. Sometimes during these conversations, the other thing I hope is that you begin to share ideas with each other. And I see some of those. Maybe a couple of you share some ideas back and forth and go, man, that would be cool to continue talking to this person. You can find each other on Facebook. You can private chat on Facebook. You can exchange contact information. If Coffee Breaks with Steve does not promote conversation here and beyond here, maybe, I'd probably still do it because I don't mind talking. But what I really want out of this is that it's about the conversation. It's about us connecting. It's about relationship. And I haven't taken a sip in a few minutes, so I'm going to do that before I wrap up here. All right, listen. Thank you. Thank you for letting me ramble on with a bunch of similes and metaphors about motivating and about perseverance. I talk about these things as well because they're relevant in my life. There's still things I'm motivating myself for, and there's still things that I need to persist and persevere in the midst of. So thank you for letting me talk. You're the people I trust, and to spur me on, to sharpen me, to is Kathy Cameo. She talked about it. Kathy talked about coming down here and saying hi, sitting on my lap and singing a camp song. I don't know that she's going to end up doing that in the last couple of minutes here. But as we do wrap up, I even offered my grandnieces Piper and Addison are here as well this weekend, and I actually offered to let Piper come in if she wanted to say hi. But I don't know that we'll get anybody coming into the room here. But let me tell you what's coming up. Next week, we're going to talk about guilty pleasures. Do you know what guilty pleasures are? Those are those things that it may be a certain musical artist you listen to. It may be a certain show that you watch on TV. It could be a certain series of YouTubes that you love to tune into, or podcasts that you wouldn't necessarily, it's kind of like you almost feel guilty telling people that you like that, because a lot of people would think it was hokey, or for some reason it might be something that, it's not less popular, or you think people would think you were weird or something, but you enjoy it. It's your guilty pleasure. So we're going to talk about those next week. What are our guilty pleasures? Why do they make us feel good? It's almost like getting, the comfort food type of things. So, and by the way, food can be a guilty pleasure too. You may have a certain snack you like. We're going to talk about all of those next week. I think it'll be kind of fun. And once again, I'm just going to invite you. I've gotten some ideas from some people, but if there are people who, Kathy's here. All right. She's a quick pop in, but thank you, Kathy. That was my sister, Kathy Garlick. She's been on before. She's been a guest on some time back. We talked about music and how we both grew up with music. And once again, I appreciate Rod and Kathy opening their home in general, and also letting Coffee Breaks with Steve happen from here. So thanks for popping in, Kathy. I appreciate that. And I just want to encourage you once again to share topic ideas. I want to encourage you to just be thinking about the things that we talk about, and get back to me about how you find that you apply the things that we talk about on Coffee Breaks with Steve to your life. And you know how I feel about all of this. You know, we're in the midst of continued uncertainty about a lot of things, people. Um, Things have not gotten back to normal, and it may be a while, and maybe normal isn't going to look like what normal looked like before. So what I want to tell you is hang in there. I know that I'm here for you. Reach out to me if I can be a thought partner or an encourager for you. You know, I think all of you know that that's my style, that's my personality. It's not fake. I love to connect with people, and I want to be here for you. And I know that you're here for me as well. So I'll reach out to you. But in the meantime, we're here for each other, and we're here for the people in our lives. And so I just want to remind you once again and encourage you, find a way to make a difference in your world this week, would you please? I appreciate you. I love you. God bless you. Have a great week, and we'll see you soon.